In the quiet preed, on hours when most of the city still clung to the last fragments of sleep, the departure terminals of Northbridge International Airport hummed with the familiar rhythm of rolling suitcases, muffled announcements, and the soft shuffle of travelers preparing to journey across continents. Among the numerous flights scheduled that morning was Flight XYZ, a mid-range transcontinental route operated by Sky Reach Airways, destined for Westford City on the other side of the ocean. The aircraft, a modern twin-engine jet known for efficiency and comfort, sat poised at Gate 47B, illuminated by the golden glow of overhead lights glinting off its polished fuselage. For the 192 passengers boarding, Flight XYZ was, in most cases, just another routine connection. Business commitments, family reunions, vacations, transitions between chapters of life, but none of them could have anticipated that their journey would soon become the center of one of the most scrutinized aviation tragedies in recent memory. As the terminal clock ticked toward 5:32 a.m., the final boarding call echoed through the hall, prompting several late arrivals to jog toward the gate. Inside the cockpit, Captain Adrian Clark and First Officer Marin Silva completed the final checks of their pre-flight procedures. Clark, a veteran pilot with over 25 years of experience, carried a reputation for calm professionalism. Silva, relatively newer but exceptionally skilled, was known for her analytical precision. Together, they went through the aircraft systems, verifying instrument readings, flight plans, weather data, and fuel levels. Everything appeared normal, with only a mild patch of forecasted turbulence halfway through the planned route. The cabin crew, led by Chief Attendant Dana Hallwell, worked methodically to assist passengers, settle overhead baggage, and ensure safety compliance. As passengers took their seats, snippets of private stories filled the air. A mother reassuring her anxious son during his first long-distance flight, a businessman adjusting his tie while reviewing a presentation on his tablet, a pair of elderly sisters embarking on a long-awaited holiday trip, and a group of university students comparing playlists while taking photos of themselves in their seats. At 5:46 a.m., the boarding doors closed, the aircraft pushed back from the gate, and engines were brought to life with a steady rising hum that vibrated gently beneath the passengers' feet. Outside, the sky had begun shifting from indigo to pale blue as dawn crept over the horizon. Inside the cockpit, Clark and Silva communicated with ground control, taxiing the aircraft toward runway 09L. After a brief hold, clearance was granted. With a controlled surge of power, Flight XYZ accelerated swiftly, the city skyline blurring beyond the windows until the wheels lifted from the ground, and the aircraft ascended into the brightening sky. For the first 40 minutes, the flight proceeded routinely. Passengers settled in as the cabin crew began their initial service preparations, ensuring seatbelts were fastened and electronics set to airplane mode. As the aircraft climbed to cruising altitude, the sun cast a warm amber glow across the cabin, prompting window-seat passengers to lower their shades to soften the incoming light. In the cockpit, Clark discussed the expected weather patterns ahead with Silva, noting the slight turbulence predicted, but nothing they hadn't encountered countless times before. However, at approximately 6:34 a.m., an unexpected series of advisories flashed across the cockpit display. At first, it appeared to be a routine caution, anomalous but not immediately alarming, regarding an irregular reading from the aircraft's left engine temperature sensors. Clark, trained to remain composed even in uncertainty, instructed Silva to run a diagnostic check. Within moments, the readings stabilized, and both pilots exchanged brief glances, noting the fleeting nature of the anomaly. They documented the event, reported the sensor flicker to air traffic control as a precaution, and continued monitoring the engine parameters. The aircraft proceeded smoothly for another 20 minutes before a subtle, almost imperceptible vibration coursed through the fuselage, Several passengers looked up, sensing the shift but assuming it was turbulence. The cabin crew maintained their tasks, though Hallwell quietly radioed the cockpit to inquire whether conditions were expected to worsen. Clark responded reassuringly that everything was under control, and they were simply passing through a minor atmospheric disturbance. But in the cockpit, the pilots observed something irregular. The vibration did not correlate with turbulence patterns. It had a mechanical rhythm, faint but persistent. Just as Clark prepared to run further checks, an abrupt discrepancy appeared on the engine performance display. The left engine's rotational speeds fluctuated rapidly, dipping below normal thresholds before spiking upward again. Alarms triggered. The aircraft jolted in a sudden, sharp movement that sent a ripple of gasps through the cabin. The seatbelt sign illuminated instantly. Clark radioed air traffic control, declaring an engine irregularity and requesting priority handling for a potential diversion to the nearest suitable airport, Crestwind Regional, approximately 70 miles away. Passengers were informed of a minor technical issue necessitating a precautionary diversion. Most accepted the announcement calmly. Some clutched their armrests more tightly, while others whispered anxiously. In the cabin, the crew prepared for an unplanned landing, discreetly reviewing their emergency response protocols. Within minutes, the left engine's condition deteriorated rapidly. Smoke began to billow faintly from the rear exhaust, detected first by onboard sensors and moments later by shocked passengers seated near the left wing. The aircraft shuddered violently as the engine experienced a severe compressor stall, producing a loud bang that echoed through the cabin. Panic erupted. Several passengers screamed. Others gripped their seats with trembling hands. Hallwell and her team moved swiftly, urging everyone to remain seated and strapped in, repeating instructions with steady voices, even as the situation intensified. In the cockpit, alarms blared in overlapping sequences, the dense symphony of aviation warnings signaling critical failure. Clark and Silva executed emergency engine shutdown procedures, cutting fuel supply to prevent ignition. They initiated the aircraft's single engine operational mode, attempting to stabilize altitude and maintain directional control, but the sudden loss of thrust created further complications. The weather ahead, previously manageable, now presented an obstacle, unexpected shear winds sweeping across the region. The aircraft struggled against the forces, losing altitude faster than anticipated. Air traffic control cleared the airspace and issued the fastest possible route for emergency descent, coordinating with Crestwind Regional to prepare for an immediate landing. But even with only one functioning engine, the aircraft remained difficult to handle. The right engine, overburdened, strained to compensate. Vibration intensified throughout the airframe. Clark's voice remained firm, but grew increasingly tense as he relayed updates to controllers and directed Silva through emergency protocols. 30 minutes into the emergency sequence, Flight XYZ was approaching the perimeter of Crestwind airspace. The terrain below, a rugged mix of forested hills and sparse industrial zones, presented little margin for error. In the cabin, oxygen masks had deployed during a sudden decompression caused by structural stress near the compromised engine. Passengers clung to the dangling masks, many sobbing, some praying, others frozen in stunned silence. The cabin crew fought against chaos, guiding passengers through breathing procedures, securing loose objects, and preparing everyone for the brace position. As the runway came into view, the aircraft descended rapidly, but crosswinds pushed it off alignment. Clark attempted to correct the approach, adjusting flaps, throttling the remaining engine, and manipulating rudder inputs, but the aircraft lagged in its responsiveness. Silva monitored altitude callouts in a shaky but determined voice. At 1,500 feet, a sharp, metallic crack reverberated through the fuselage. Part of the weakened left engine cowling tore away, striking the wing before separating into open air. The aircraft lurched, rolling slightly to the left. Clark fought the controls, stabilizing the descent in a maneuver that would later be studied extensively by investigators for its precision under extreme duress. Seconds before touchdown, a final gust of crosswind forced the aircraft off its intended trajectory by a narrow but disastrous margin. The right landing gear struck uneven ground adjacent to the runway, snapping instantly under the immense force. The aircraft veered violently, skidding across the ground as sparks trailed beneath the fuselage. Passengers screamed as luggage compartments burst open and lights flickered overhead. The aircraft's nose slammed into the earth, fracturing on impact. The right engine tore loose, ricocheting across the field before erupting into flames. The fuselage split near the midsection, sending the rear cabin tilting as the aircraft ground to a catastrophic halt. Emergency crews, already in position following the aircraft's distress signal, rushed toward the wreckage. Fire crews battled the growing flames, while paramedics advanced into the smoking cabin sections to extract survivors. Many passengers in the forward cabin sustained severe injuries due to the force of impact, but were alive. Those in the rear cabin faced a greater peril. The structural break had caused parts of the fuselage to collapse inward. The rescue teams worked rapidly, cutting through twisted metal and broken seats to reach trapped passengers. The scene was a mixture of chaos, bravery, confusion, and urgency. Over the next hour, rescue operations continued with relentless determination. By mid-morning, the fires had been extinguished, survivors transported to nearby hospitals, and the entire crash site sealed for investigation. News of Flight XYZ crash spread globally within moments of official confirmation. Families awaiting arrivals at Westford City were redirected to private rooms, where airline representatives and counselors provided updates in somber tones. Vigils emerged at airports and public squares as the world grappled with the unfolding tragedy. The international press mobilized with rapid intensity, broadcasting footage of the wreckage, speculating on possible causes, and interviewing aviation experts who analyzed the limited details publicly available. In the days that followed, aviation authorities assembled a multidisciplinary team of investigators specializing in mechanical engineering, avionics, human factors, and meteorology. The aircraft's black boxes, its flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, were recovered after several hours of meticulous searching. Although battered, they remained intact. Their data would soon provide a critical window into the final moments of the flight. Investigators established a secure facility to analyze the recorded information. The flight data recorder revealed the progressive deterioration of the left engine's turbine module, specifically the failure of a high-pressure compression component. This failure triggered the sequence of mechanical disruptions, including the sensor anomalies noted before the engine stalled catastrophically. Specialists traced the failure to a microscopic fracture in one of the turbine blades, a flaw not previously detected during standard inspections. The fracture expanded under high operational stress, ultimately causing the engine to destabilize and ignite the emergency. The cockpit voice recorder provided a deeply human perspective, capturing Clark and Silva's calm but urgent efforts, their technical precision, and their final attempts to maintain control during the descent. Investigators noted the exemplary collaboration between the pilots, whose actions likely prevented an even more devastating loss of life. The report also detailed the impact of unexpected crosswinds, which compounded the aircraft's compromised aerodynamics and contributed to the ill-aligned landing trajectory. Over the next several months, the investigation expanded to include testing of similar engine models, enhanced inspection protocols, and collaboration with global aviation safety agencies. Airlines worldwide implemented updated maintenance procedures, specifically targeting the type of fatigue-related fracture that had gone undetected in the ill-fated engine. Families of victims attended memorial services held in both departure and arrival cities. Sky Reach Airways provided compensation and support, though many families remained engaged in legal pursuits seeking accountability and systemic improvements. Survivors of the crash faced a long journey of physical and emotional recovery, yet many shared stories of courage, of crew members who shielded children, of passengers who supported strangers, of emergency responders who risked their lives to enter burning wreckage. As months passed, Flight XYZ tragedy became a case study in aviation safety reform. Universities integrated its lessons into aviation programs, emphasizing the critical importance of early anomaly detection, crosswind risk assessments, and emergency coordination. Engineers redesigned components to minimize fatigue vulnerability. Airlines retrained staff on updated emergency procedures inspired by the event. Yet beyond the technical and procedural legacies, the human stories remained the most profound. Families forged bonds through shared grief. Survivors built new lives marked by resilience, and the names of those lost were honored annually in a ceremony overlooking the Memorial Garden near Crestwind Regional Airport, where a sculpture commemorated the passengers and crew. The official investigation concluded nearly a year after the crash, confirming the sequence: a microscopic flaw in a turbine blade, a cascade of mechanical failures, adverse weather conditions, and an emergency landing attempt that, despite heroic efforts, could not prevent tragedy. The report emphasized that aviation, though safer than ever, remained vulnerable to rare but catastrophic anomalies. It urged the global community to continue prioritizing innovation, vigilance, and collaboration in pursuit of safer skies. Flight XYZ's story, though born from tragedy, became a catalyst for change, a reminder of the fragility of human endeavors and the enduring commitment to learn, improve, and honor those whose lives were forever altered. The final pages of the report reflected on the bravery aboard the aircraft, the dedication of first responders, and the thousands of individuals worldwide who worked tirelessly to understand what happened. In the years that followed, the memory of Flight XYZ persisted not as an unsolved mystery, but as a testament to the determination to seek truth, strengthen safety, and preserve the dignity of every life touched by the events of that fateful morning.